Good afternoon, YouTube subscribers, students, and friends. Today I'm going to begin with some scales from the very first level scales that I teach 5- and 6-year-olds, all the way up to the scales that my college students do, advanced 4-octave scales and arpeggios. One of the things that's important to me from the very start with beginning students is to hear scales at every lesson. I believe that we can learn finger action, intonation, sound production, everything using these. The easiest scale pattern to do involves setting up the tetrachord with a half step between the first and the second and third fingers. So we have a whole step from 1 to 2, half step, whole step. In this shape, even at the very beginning when I have my students working, I try to get them to think very clearly about keeping the hand quiet, not squeezing the inside of the E string, and isolating the base knuckles of the fingers as the lifting motion without squeezing any knuckle into another. Sometimes it helps for them to hold the instrument under their hands, like this, under their arm, and this way it's easier to watch these in a mirror, because on the one hand we want them to be very precise and rhythmic and strong enough to hear the pitches tap, but they also always have a bounce back. Otherwise we'll never be able to later add the vibrato. So they learn literally 2 tetrachord shapes, 2 to 3 tetrachord with whole steps on either side, organized. You can literally create the spaces, but then take your thumb off and wiggle it, make sure you're not squeezing. And the second tetrachord is a half step between the third and fourth finger. I saw these demonstrated by a professor in California, and unfortunately the professor left out the most important aspect of all of this, that if we don't establish an ergonomically worked out position for that, it's not going to amount to anything that we can use for anything, right? Whatever you're doing, if it doesn't work, very relaxed, we can't speed it up later, right? This is important. So I would have added to that video that I saw that we have to organize the left hand with certain rules. And I said in the beginning of this series that virtuosity is the fanatical application of a limited set of values to every aspect of a task. And you will discover in time that I wasn't BSing, that I really meant it. So we're going to make sure of a couple things. No knuckles touch, space on the inside of the index finger, and an open V between the thumb and the index finger. That I heard described brilliantly by Georg Schmidt, and he's dead on right about it. So from the very beginning, my kids have to organize their hands, right? Because if we organize the hands and we're fanatical about how we lift and drop fingers and how we move, vibrato will work better because it's a release. It's not locking the hand. Yeah? Nothing is locked. Yeah? This can move. That can move. Yeah? And by having the space, we have room to roll the finger. If you're locked here, guess what? Your hand can't roll at all. You can't feel a wrist vibrato. So the inside of the first finger rule is very important, that it's not squeezing the E string side of the net. And the thumb will be lower and slightly more forward than where you think as a rule. I'll get to that later. So the first scales are going to be G major, D major, and A major, starting with the open strings. And they're going to be A major, E major, and B major, starting with the first finger. So you place the bow on the string, yeah? And we have that same feeling that we use for the collet, the catching of the string. Just rest it on the string, catch the string, release the string, place the next finger cleanly, play that, release the next, yeah, catch the string, first finger, and dropping this without changing the angle of the first finger on the way down. Again, space to the index finger, not squeezing the base knuckle of the index finger in under the neck, keeping that open feeling while I grab this, or this, or this. Pardon me. A major. I teach them. Now, when we're doing these scales slurred, you're going to use open strings and fourth fingers according to what's practical for your string crossings. So this whole question of when to use four, when to use open is musically contextual. It has to do with what our bowing pattern is and what works. For example, if you're doing a down bow on the previous string and an up bow on the next string up, it's more natural for the arm than the opposite. This is less natural for us. Somehow that feels more natural. So up. Then here, that doesn't feel as comfortable as open. So here I'm bowing by eighth notes. 2/16, 2/16. That's better than this pattern. If I'm trying to keep a certain type of rhythm. So rhythm and bowing both affect our choices of when to use the fourth finger, when to use the open. And if you're logical, you'll follow my drift with that. So here, I cross. I play that open. Now, always practice the uncomfortable one too. Why? Well, sometimes it'll get us out of trouble. So that means we should also practice. And there are also times when we just want continuous vibrato between all of the notes. So that's very important to work on as well. I hope that this video helps you. And if you like it, click on the likes and send me your comments, because I would really love to answer questions and do whatever I can to help anyone. The other thing is practice these scales with various bowings, obviously. 2 down, 2 with martelets, variable. From the very beginning. I mean, even in advanced repertoire, you'll see a video up teaching ballade. They start out in. Even if later. Yeah, we start with these very simple martelets so that we have time to prepare the next note and to be clear on what the signals are that we're sending. If you want to know why I'm doing that, go to the last chapter in the Galamian book, Principles of Violin Playing and Teaching, and read about the building time in practice and advanced mental preparation and correlation, and you'll understand. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. Let's make a lot of great violinists. Ciao.